In the previous episode, I completed my solo circumnavigation by sailing from Anguilla Key on the remote Cell Bank off the southwest corner of the Grand Bahamas Bank to Stuart on the east coast of Florida, thus returning to the same longitude of 80 west as the marina in Panama where I bought Sea Change in late 2019. I had booked a mooring ball for a month in the Manatee Pocket mooring field run by Martin County, where I would prepare Sea Change for sale. Part of the timing of arriving on July 1st was to coincide with a visit to nearby Fort Lauderdale by my stepson Gabriel, on the right here, and his wife Amy, back left, from Seattle, along with Amy's parents May and James from New Jersey, who all visited Sea Change the next day. And that evening, they joined Liz Haleman and her son Eric in a celebratory dinner at a restaurant in Jupiter. I emigrated from South Africa to America in 1982 as a postdoctoral fellow with Professor Jack Haleman, an ornithologist and ethologist at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and considered Jack and Liz to be my American family. When they retired to Liz's parents' home in Jupiter Inlet Colony, we would regularly visit, and these pictures are from our visit for Thanksgiving 10 years ago, just months before Jack died in 2016. The hospitality now offered to me by Liz and Eric was the primary reason for my choosing to end my circumnavigation in Stuart, as opposed to several other possible locations in Florida and indeed up the East Coast, having never had the intention of returning to Panama. A second reason was that the broker, Kevin Welsh of Edwards Yacht Sales, who mediated my purchase of Sea Change from an Icelandic and Norwegian couple, Eike and Lubna, in 2019, lives not far up the coast in Melbourne, and he agreed to broker her sale again. It made a huge difference to me for cleaning and repairing Sea Change in preparation for sale to be able to retreat from the sticky afternoon heat of Florida in July to the Hellman's lovely home near the beach, and having been used to getting up early each morning on Sea Change, I continued to do so, in particular to walk the beach where scores of female sea turtles, mostly greens and loggerheads with a few leatherbacks, laid their eggs each night. A local conservation group that monitors 10 miles of beach centered on Jupiter Inlet already had recorded over 10,000 nests this year. One morning I encountered a female which was rather late digging the hole for her eggs, and I was able to watch her lay her eggs in the dark, after which she covered the nest in the pre-dawn light. She then disguised its location by moving slowly forward in the soft sand while throwing it over the nest, which ended up 2 full body lengths away from the obvious depression she finally left in the sand. As dawn broke, she headed back across the beach towards the ocean. number of females nesting along just this 1 mile of beach at Jupiter Inlet Colony was over 50 every night. Indeed, there were so many that some were digging up earlier nests, something the lurking night herons eagerly took advantage of. Most mornings I stayed on the beach till dawn, but others I drove the half-hour north to Sea Change before dawn to get work done before the heat became unbearable. The first 2 weeks were particularly difficult, with thunderstorms most afternoons, but the last week we had better, albeit still hot, weather. It was an enormous job removing all of my stuff from the boat and cleaning it thoroughly, including removing and steam cleaning all the bunk cushions. But eventually, Sea Change was ready to be shown to prospective buyers, the first of which was a young local chap named Ryan, who made an acceptable offer the next day. I took almost no photos of all of this, which included repairing the transmission cable which had recently frozen, getting this stanchion that had broken off the boat welded and reinstalled, which was not an easy task I had avoided for 3 years, and replacing some highly corroded items like several tools and the propane tanks. As Ryan is shorter than me and would have to look through the Dodger windows instead of over it, I even had the windows replaced with strata-glass by a local canvas shop. These photos show the final result, a thoroughly cleaned and mostly cleared cabin, with the chart table as clear as it had ever been, and just a few items left in the quarter berth where I had stored my kitesurfing gear. It took a lot of work to get the head functional, as I never used it, and the stove and oven in the galley needed replacing. The new windows in the Dodger looked great, and the decks were cleared of all rust and thoroughly cleaned, as was the cockpit. In preparation for the sea trial requested by Ryan, I removed the old original mainsail with all its repairs, full battens intact as they were hard to take out, and bent on a spare mainsail of unknown vintage and origin that I had carried around the world, unfortunately without taking pictures of it. As part of the survey, Ryan paid for a haul out at nearby Port Salerno Marina. Here's Sea Change. She's coming out in slings for a change. This is in a small marina down here in Stuart, where I've had the boat for the last almost a month. This is the 28th, Monday the 28th of July, and she's coming out for a survey inspection. And here she is after being pressure washed. Ryan, of course, paid for the survey, which turned out very helpful to him. In my last couple of days in Florida, I tried hard to find an emerging nest of turtle hatchlings, but they mostly occur in the middle of the night, and it was hard to identify nests that might emerge each night. In the morning light, it was easy to find those which had emerged that night from the depression in the sand, from which numerous tiny trails led to the ocean. But there were sometimes stragglers like this one. This guy is really not going to get over the Sargasso, so I'm going to take it to the water. I got this little guy and I got him across the Sargasso, and look at him go now. Wow. He is off to the ocean. This is fantastic. Look at the speed, and he's still got energy to go after all the struggle it's been through. Look at this. Non-stop, headed for the lights, reflecting from the dawn off the water. Almost there. Yay! Come on, one more wave. Another morning, I helped these two stragglers to the water and watched them swim out, taking frequent breaths as their little heads hopped above the surface, until sadly a large fish, probably a shark, devoured them at the end of the strip. On my last day, I donned goggles and snorkel and was able to watch 3 different straggler hatchlings like this one swim out successfully, at least for the first 100 feet or so, although only a tiny few of all of these hatchlings are likely to return as adult females in the next 20 to 100 years to lay their own eggs on this beach. Eventually, Ryan and I settled on a price of $30,000, 10,000 less than I had paid for sea change. But with broker's fee, mooring costs, liability insurance, and repair and cleaning expenses, I only cleared 22,000, not counting a month of truly sweat equity. Amortized over the 6 years I owned Sea Change, that is 3,000 per year, or 4,500 for each year of the circumnavigation. This was my final view of her, riding much higher in the water with all my gear removed. I am encouraged to hear that Ryan is effecting more repairs to Sea Change, and hope he will eventually take her back out to sea where she belongs, apparently with the same name given to her by the Australian Shane and his American wife Mary in Minnesota back in 2012, and retained by Ike and Lubna and me, far better than her previous names when she was in the Great Lakes of This Side Up 4 and then Sword of the Spirit, shown here in the survey report from 2012. Well, it's my penultimate day in Florida, so I thought I'd go somewhere other than working on the boat or Jupiter Beach itself at the inlet colony. This is Hobe Sound National Wildlife Refuge. Man, it's an extensive beach. It goes way down there, and in the far distance I could see the inlet to St. Lucie, the houses on the other side where I came in. They had their own successful turtle nesting season, also dominated by green and loggerhead turtles with just a few leatherbacks. It was a long 2-day drive back to the soybean and cornfields of east central Illinois, returning to our home surrounded by trees, with Christina's spectacular tall lilies flowering in the backyard and her surprise lilies erupted a few days later. Meanwhile, Christina was off in Ohio, competing in the Thistle Nationals, with my kitesurfing friend Ken, the co-owner and co-skipper of their racing Thistle, called Reddy, and their crew Jordan. Upon her return in early August, Christina endured right shoulder rotator cuff surgery, and having had the same surgery on both shoulders, I was well prepared to care for her painful recovery. Another reason for ending my sailing when I did, and a small reciprocation for leaving her alone for 4 to 7 months each of the last 4 years. The primary mementos I brought home from Sea Change, aside from my blog and these videos, are my courtesy flags from all but a few of the last islands which I did not officially check into, and that I now have hanging in our porch. Starting from Panama and leftwards are my first season ending in Fiji, then my second season ending in New Zealand, and third season ending in South Africa, and then my many stops this season up the South Atlantic and through the Caribbean, ending, of course, in the USA. While this marks the end of my brief ocean sailing career, I am still able to kitesurf, and in mid-October was in Avon in the Outer Banks of North Carolina with a large group of other windsurfers and kitesurfers from Illinois and Indiana, just in time for the arrival of an unnamed extraterrestrial storm that gave us some strong northerly winds as measured here in miles per hour at the nearby town of Buxton, which is also where houses have famously been collapsing into the sea, as these are soon to do. Our daughter Erica and her boyfriend Cody, beginner kitesurfers living in Colorado, came along, although I don't anticipate that the sport will usurp their interest in climbing and skiing. As I finish up these video accounts of my circumnavigation, I am home in Urbana in east central Illinois as the temperatures fall in late October 2025 and the leaves change color. I am appreciative of my relative health and fitness, and especially the continuing support of Christina, here with one of her recent paintings called Shattered Flag, that allowed me to fulfill my dream of sailing around the world, a dream I held onto since growing up in the city of East London on the southeast coast of South Africa, but deferred for 50 years for career and family. Finally, thanks to all the new friends I made during this adventure, as fellow cruisers are one of the most enjoyable aspects of ocean sailing, and to those who have followed my blog and or watched these videos.